Golf plus VR. Oculus is all the rage these days, and Golf Plus is benefiting from this. It's a cool product. We have Ryan, and I wanted to welcome him to the event now and talk about his story and everything that's going on at Golf Plus.
Hey,
Ryan,
Sean.
how you doing? What's going
Doing
on?
great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for coming on and just and coming to tell your story. Obviously, you founded Golf Plus VR. Make sure I add the VR on there. The game is currently listed in kind of one of the top selling categories. I got promoted that even before reaching out to you, and played my first 18 or first 9 and hit the driving range a couple times. So it's a pretty cool experience overall. So congratulations on the success and just giving us more insights into your product, Oculus, and everything that's going on.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I've personally been a golfer since I was 11. My dad got me into the game, and then I started writing code when I was 12 or 13. So those two things just kind of aligned really well to now be building what we consider to be, kind of the golf metaverse and really the next iteration of golf. And yeah, our mission as a company is truly to grow the game of golf. We think we can do that by not only creating a bunch of new VR golfers, but just growing the entire space as a whole. Golf's a very high friction activity, and our guess is that if we can make it more accessible and get people addicted to it by playing in VR, they're a lot more likely to play on the real course as well. So that's been really cool. And Oculus just happened to create kind of the ultimate device that we needed to make golf possible in VR. We tried playing it prior with, a tether attached to your computer. And it turns out when you're doing a golf swing, that tether can be pretty tricky. So having a standalone device like the Oculus Quest has made the experience a lot better.
Got it. Talk about the game itself. Like the experience that somebody jumps on, and what do they experience there?
Totally. So yeah, we do have a couple partners. So we're partnered with Topgolf, and we're partnered with the PGA. And right when you get into the game, we wanted to make you feel like you're at a golf resort. So we have kind of this nice clubhouse. We have a voiceover and an onboarding experience. You're on a driving range, and right from the get-go, we explain. You play with one controller. It's a one-to-one with how you swing a normal golf club. So should be very intuitive. And as soon as you get through onboarding and learn the basic controls, you can immediately hop onto an 18-hole golf course. We have 3 golf courses. One of them is a fantasy course that we created, and the other 2 are real courses in the real world. One is Wolf Creek in Mesquite, Nevada. It's kind of one of the coolest golf courses out there, crazy elevation change in the middle of the desert. It's featured in a lot of other golf games, including like the old Tiger Woods games. And then our other course is Valhalla, which is owned by the PGA and has hosted major championship tournaments there. It's hosted the Ryder Cup in the past. It's a Jack Nicklaus design course. So it's in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's just a very cool, well-designed course with lots of trees and some water. And we're in the process of finalizing some additional licensing deals with other real-world courses. And, ultimately our goal is to have every course ever built in the world in VR and playable.
Wow. So technology-wise, talk to me about how you get that in the game. And so that we can experience it as if it's real in the real world.
Yeah, so it's a process of getting survey data. So thankfully, most golf courses have been surveyed at some point, either via sort of national survey or privately, including like flying drones over the course and getting photogrammetry data. And then there are also companies that send laser scanners over there and scan the greens to make them incredibly accurate, so that they can print out these books that pros use to prepare before a tournament or even during play. So there's a lot of 3D data out there. And then, stuff like Google Maps, Google Earth, photographs that the course already has in order to get all the bushes in the right place, all the trees in the right place, everything like that. Lots of satellite imagery, staring at the course, watching YouTube videos of people who go out there and do, course vlogs. And then a bunch, artist work in Unity, basically creating a 3D version of that course and ensuring we have the fairways in the right spots and the tee boxes in the right spots, and looking at the course data to see where they put the pin positions in some cases, reaching out to the course to ask them questions about, certain layouts that we have, we have questions about that aren't clear. So yeah, it's really just, digitizing the real world as closely as we can.
Yeah, it's incredible. Talk about the VR, like challenges to technology-wise to build in VR, because obviously, as you think of VR, it's a network effect, right? More users come in, the more money in theory that VR developers have the ability to develop, and then more intellectual property can come in as well in terms of like licensing and things like that. So like as both sides gets bigger and stronger. So talk about the challenges to build for VR, so we can get a context of kind of how fast the adoption of developers coming into the platform could occur, I guess.
Yeah, there are a bunch of challenges. Some of the sort of more design technical challenges are the fact that, you're in 3D. The person using VR can be looking anywhere. They could be looking behind them, even though you want them to be looking at the menu right in front of them. So you have to have a lot of like audio cues and even visual cues to make sure that the player's actually looking where you want them to look. That's like kind of more on the design side of things. From a business perspective, I think you kind of nailed it. It's still a new market. It's growing very quickly, but the numbers are nowhere even close to console or mobile. And when someone's in VR, they're kind of locked into it, right? They don't have their phone. They can't see their computer. So when you're in VR, it can be more difficult to kind of communicate or look up what you should be doing if you're getting stuck. And then I think the other big thing from kind of just the design perspective as well is there's no real interface guidelines yet. Oculus is still kind of experimenting with interfaces that they think are going to work. Every game has their own sort of different interface. They don't have like that Apple human interface guideline. This is how an app works. This is where the nav goes. This is where the footer goes. This is how the back button works. It's still kind of Wild West out there. So every experience is a little different, and you have to do a lot of hand holding with your players to make sure that they understand how to play the game. Our game skews a little bit older. It's golf, right? So it does skew a little bit older, which means that we're even more likely to have some sort of less technical people checking it out. And
Interesting.
We try to get people on Discord. We try to get people to send us emails if they get stuck. And it's an ongoing process, really, to just make sure that people are aware of the controls and how everything works.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So talk about the last, I'd say 2 months. And the adoption or trends you've seen, obviously in the game and Golf Plus, and then also Oculus in general. I guess they kind of go hand in hand for yourself, but just trends. What have you witnessed?
Yeah, the last 2 months have been insane for us because we launched Golf Plus 2 months ago. We had, we prior it was called Top Golf with Pro Putt, and then Pro Putt by Top Golf before that. So we had a bit of a user base, but over the last 2 months, like our game basically doubled in size, even though it had been out for almost a year and a half prior. This last Christmas was about 5 or 6 times as large as year's Christmas or the Christmas before. So we're just seeing crazy numbers, crazy growth. Thankfully, our average time in game since we launched Golf Plus is about 3 times as much time in game as it was before. So we're seeing, kind of great stickiness, great retention so far. And the coolest thing is people playing it and then telling us that they got their friends to buy a Quest to play it as well. And we've heard this from other devs too. It's not totally unique to us. But it does feel like we're at that moment where there are enough really good experiences out there and enough new people trying it where when they try it, they immediately want to share it with a friend, get their friend to buy it. And there are a lot of social experiences that allow, friends to hang out together and play golf or play ping pong or basketball. And it really does feel like it's becoming, a great social experience, especially while we're all still, somewhat limited in terms of travel and working from home or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So let's talk about Oculus for a second. There's this narrative out there that is really around the fact that potentially developers, I think I sent you the article the other day, which was really a negative view of the Oculus developer ecosystem, and developers were not that happy. We've heard different from a ton of developers. What's your initial take on, again, not on the negative side, but just in general, what's your views of Oculus as a platform, and how they treat their developers?
Yeah, I mean, Oculus has saved VR hands down, no questions asked. Like, 100% no way would our business be operating right now if they hadn't launched the Quest, if they hadn't pioneered the entire standalone market, if they hadn't priced it in a way that would get, rumor is 10 million units sold last year. That's been a game changer for our business, and we can afford to grow and keep bringing golf, into the metaverse. As soon as there's another platform that's out there that has compelling hardware and some decent user numbers, we 100% plan on porting the game to that and building new features that take advantage of any new hardware. We fully believe in competition, but right now I think we just have to be honest that there is no competition, because the Oculus Quest 2 is just, head and shoulders above, and they don't really have any real competition because they just created such an incredible piece of hardware. And just in terms of how they've treated us, one thing that's been great is our company is, when we launched Golf Plus, was like a team of 5, right? So we're a tiny company, and Oculus gives us access to new features to test out. And then we get to talk to their team about our experience with them. We were one of the first to implement their avatar system. And based on our feedback to them, we saw them make some real changes to the avatar system before rolling it out to more devs. So from our personal experience with them, they're incredibly receptive. The people on their team care deeply about the space and the hardware or the software that they're working on. And everyone there has treated us with a ton of respect and made us feel like valued partners. So it's been a great experience. I will say, having friends that, are in App Lab or aren't in the proper store, I do hope that Oculus is able to make the path more clear for new developers to understand how you can go from, VR concept to actually being in the proper app store, because it is difficult for App Lab games to get the exposure that we get in the store. We got lucky to be accepted into the store early. And I'm hoping that the process to get into the store is made more clear.
Got it. That makes sense. And then talk about so building for consumers or even like a commercial utility here as it relates to like swing coaches training. How are you guys thinking about that futuristically?
Yeah, when we first started prototyping VR, we actually thought being a training aid was the way to go. We connected the controller to a putter and it felt really good, and we created a little analysis tool and it worked really well. But the problem was convincing golfers that it did work, and the only way to do that was to put them in VR, and that's asking a lot. So we decided to focus pretty much exclusively on consumers and build something that would be fun. And having the mission to grow the game of golf, we recognized that we have to build something that attracts new people to the sport, not just people that are already into the sport. So right now we're pretty focused on consumers, but we have had quite a few coaches reach out to ask about training in VR because they feel like it's a great way to expand their offering. I'm hoping later this year we'll have some new features available where coaches are able to give private virtual lessons.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I was on some other apps in terms of fitness, and just some of the technology is pretty incredible that you can, I mean, in some ways, it's not real life, but at the same time, it feels pretty real in some ways. Last couple questions. I mean, when you hear the term metaverse, how do you see Golf Plus as like a player in that space? And just metaverse, like how do you define it? And Golf Plus as like a constituent in the space.
Yeah, I guess right now my definition is it's kind of evolving. I don't think anyone has a great definition, or at least I haven't heard one that has totally nailed it. But the way I look at it is like there's the internet, and what made the internet really powerful was the web. And the web was a visual 2D interface to the internet, right? The web allows individuals to create web pages, then you can link web pages together. And now you have this content that's very easy to consume as a human because you're visually able to see it with pictures and eventually movies and all of this stuff, right? And the metaverse is effectively the 3D VR spatial version of the web. That's how I see it. So it's a virtual interface to the internet. The information's still on the internet, but now it's accessible in a way that's much closer to how I'm looking at my desk right now, how you and I would look at each other at a coffee shop or whatever, than the web, which is, just 2D. So the way that we look at it is we want to be that interface for golfers. Anytime you want to play golf, talk to your friends about golf, watch golf tournaments, book tee times, or check out new clubs and equipment, you're going into the golf metaverse, and you're doing that in the same way you'd go to a golf resort or go to a golf pro shop or go to a golf course. So we believe that we can create kind of a spatial virtual interface to golf that's very consistent and allows you to do all of the things that you would want to do golf related. So we've kind of leaned into this metaverse notion and terminology, and the way that we're framing it is we are building the metaverse for golf.
Got it. Last question before you go, I have to ask. So Top Golf, PGA, obviously these are physical companies, physical world, looking at you as potentially a strategic partner, obviously depending on what it is, formally, but in general, what do you think they see futuristically in Golf Plus, and yourself and the company that you're building, that excites them enough to like really lean in on virtual reality, metaverse type concepts?
Yeah, frankly, I think the number one thing they see is that our team, and especially me, are very persistent, so we wouldn't stop talking to them about it. So that really helped. And then we've just been pretty consistent at delivering some results and showing them demos of the experience and what we think it can be. And I think they're seeing the growth in VR as a whole. And I think, having used our experience and kind of seeing how it's evolved over time, this is going to be a really big deal, and people are engaging with it. And both of those companies are extremely dedicated to growing the game of golf. And I think they recognize that, traditional golf's not going away, but it's also not necessarily the warmest way to get people into the game. Topgolf's done a great job of exposing more and more people to swinging golf clubs and hitting balls and seeing how fun that is. And we're hoping to do the same thing in VR, is to just give people a taste of what it's like to actually get out on the golf course without having to buy the equipment and take lessons and do all the things necessary to play for real.
Awesome. Ryan, look, I appreciate you coming on, and congrats on all the success. For sure, I'm one of your subscribers, so I'll keep playing, and looking forward to some of the new courses coming out. But again, appreciate you coming on, and good luck.
Thanks so much, Sean. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, so that was Ryan, the founder of Golf Plus. Obviously, like thinking deeper about kind of what's going on in the metaverse and virtual reality. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. They've seen explosive growth. We've seen that around many of the players that built the right games and really at the right time. Oculus, in terms of app downloads, and we'll talk to Sensor Tower later. You're seeing explosive, somewhat exponential growth in the app itself. So that was a good conversation with Ryan, and we'll look forward to talking to him in the future and seeing how much more success he's had.